There are two words, really one word plus three letters, that send a chill down the spine of every sensible American. That word and those letters factor into a prediction from one of America's most prominent political pollsters and prognosticators, Nate Silver. That word and those letters, President AOC.
How can you have a Democratic primary draft at a time like this? Because, first of all, eventually we're going to have another election. Well, no, but also this is a really important nomination.
My first pick of the first round draft is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Sorry, we ought to say it's Substack. You can say whatever we want. That was going to be my first pick.
Given who we are. In a Yale poll just out this week, AOC has the highest net favorability rating of any of the Democrats that they asked about. So she's positive 62%. Harris is second. She's very close. She's net positive 59%. So that means that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has broad appeal across the Democratic Party. And there's a lot of people who could potentially get on board with her.
Many will recoil in horror. I, however, might actually donate to the AOC for President campaign because this prediction from a very serious pollster, very, very serious prognosticator, this prediction is only the latest sign among many. We've got lots of new updates today that the Democrat Party is headed for a generational collapse. I'm Michael Knowles. It's The Michael Knowles Show. What causes autism? Is it fake? Is it vaccines? Is it something in the water that turns the frogs gay also? Health and Human Services Secretary Kennedy is looking into it right now, and it's going to make a lot of heads explode. Now, what is going to make your olfactory sense explode with joy, is the Smells and Bells candle. This is officially the last day. I feel like I've been saying that every day this week, but I guess what I was supposed to say is last days. Now we're on the last day. It is Good Friday, after all. The Smells and Bells candle is designed to make your home smell like a 12th century monastery. thecandleclub.com. While you're at it, sprucing up your home, check out Allegiance Flag Supply. Go to showallegiance.com. Use promo code Knowles. You know, with the tariffs now in place, those cheaply made, easily tattered big box American flags made overseas are about to get a lot more expensive. Yet another reason you should be buying your American flag from Allegiance Flag Supply. You know whose prices are not going to increase? Allegiance, because they source 100% of their materials for their beautifully handcrafted American flags right here in the USA. Each flag is hand-sewn right in Charleston, South Carolina. While companies are figuring out how to onshore, Allegiance Flag Supply wrote the book on it. I absolutely love Allegiance flags. You know, I'm a big flag fan in general. I have lots. It was the first purchase I think I made for my desk at the DailyWire almost 10 years ago. Little American flags, and I have a flag in the back of my car. And now I have an Allegiance flag for the front of my home, for my office at the DailyWire, for my studio in here. It's just fabulous. Great way to celebrate where our country's at right now. Show your support for American workers. Get an American flag from Allegiance Flag Supply. Go to showallegiance.com today. Use code Knowles. Get free shipping right now. Showallegiance.com, promo code Knowles. Start showing your allegiance to the greatest country in the world. President AOC, huh? Maybe. I don't know. If that is the case, and don't forget, Nate Silver, he has had a couple of clunkers over the years, but since he really got in the game in 2008, he's got a pretty strong record on the presidential, on lower ticket races. He's a pretty serious guy. Nate Silver says it's going to be AOC. Who are the competitors? You know, Newsom wants it. You know, Whitmer wants it. You know, Kamala wants it. You know, Josh Shapiro wants it in Pennsylvania. But look at the position that Josh Shapiro finds himself in. Josh Shapiro, as we talked about yesterday, Josh Shapiro was the target and very nearly the victim of a serious arson. This guy who allegedly is a very pro-Palestine guy who self-identifies as a Marxist, tried to burn down the governor's house, potentially could have killed the governor and his entire family, and then had a hammer such that if he made it into the house itself, he planned to bash out Shapiro's brains with a hammer. We know the motive, at least according to court documents, at least according to the police. It was that he didn't like Shapiro because he's a Jew, because he says he doesn't like what Shapiro was going to do to the Palestinian people. Now, of course, Shapiro is the governor of Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania doesn't have a foreign policy. Pennsylvania is not behind the state of Israel. It is clearly because he's a Jew. And Shapiro, in his first big press conference since the arson, talking about the potential motives, refused to focus on the pro-Palestine angle.
I know that there are people out there who want to ascribe their own viewpoints as to what happened here and why. I know there are people out there who want to adopt their own political viewpoints or their own worldviews to what happened and why. I choose not to participate in that.
Well, no, it's not people imposing their own political viewpoints on it. We have documents from the police and from the courts suggesting that this suspect was ardently pro-Palestine, that he attacked you because he's pro-Palestine and you're not pro-Palestine because you're a Jew, even though there are plenty of Jews who are pro-Palestine, but that's a separate issue, at least in this guy's own deranged mind. Because you're a Jew, you're not pro-Palestine. And the guy had Che Guevara stickers on his belongings. He was a left pro-Palestine activist. So you're not imposing your own political views on it by just stating those facts. Were the police imposing their own political views when they stated that? Were the courts imposing their political views when they stated that? No, it's just a fact about the suspect. But Josh Shapiro can't say it. Even though Josh Shapiro and his family were nearly burned because of this, thank God they were able to extinguish the fire, alert the governor and his family, and no one was hurt. But even Shapiro can't talk about this because Josh Shapiro is a Democrat politician. And this issue, the Israel-Palestine issue, is such a live issue right now that if he talks about it and he says, yeah, these pro-Palestine people are really going a little crazy, he will be dead in the water for the presidential race. So he can't bring it up. This is why he was picked over in the first place. You cannot convince me otherwise. Pennsylvania is a much more important state than Minnesota if you're a Democrat running for president. Why did Kamala go with Tim Walz over Shapiro? Because the Democrat base now hates Israel. Some Democrat elites still like Israel. It's a brutal wedge issue, and Shapiro's a Jew. That's why. So she picks Tim Walz, who is one of the most disastrous vice presidential candidates I've ever seen in my entire life. But at least he's not pro-Israel. At least he's not a Jew. So she could run with him in today's Democrat Party. Even now, even after being the victim of this brutal political violence, all signs point to pro-Palestine left-wing activism behind it. Even Josh Shapiro can't talk about it if he wants to have a future political career for the Democrats. Not a good sign for that party. So I can't talk about that issue. Also, the Democrats can't touch immigration. You know why? There's a survey out from CNBC, not from the DailyWire, not from The Blaze, not from Fox News, CNBC. Looking at Trump's approval rating shows that Trump is down in some places, he's up in other places. You know where he's especially up? People especially approve of Trump's performance when it comes to immigration. This poll shows that Trump's approval's at 44, not bad. Disapproval's at 51, so he's down 7 on approval, but still 44 approval rating's not bad. When it comes to tariffs, it's negative 16. Okay, not great. Inflation, cost of living, negative 23. Not great. To be expected, though, given what Trump inherited. On the economy, negative 12. Federal workforce, negative 9. That's kind of surprising. Government spending, negative 6. Okay. But where's he up? Deporting illegal immigrants. He's up 7. That's net, favorable versus unfavorable. He's up 7. When it comes to the southern border, the locus of illegal immigration, he's up 12. So the Democrats have made this big mistake. The Democrats have tried to focus a lot of their ire in the early days of this second Trump administration on Trump's deportations, not realizing, not being able to comprehend that most voters voted for mass deportations. Put precisely, Trump won the popular vote on mass deportations, mainstream political issue. What are they going to do? You know what they're going to do. They're going to focus on that guy, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who, remember, we were talking about this yesterday on the show. Chris Van Hollen, the Maryland Democrat senator, takes your money, takes his time, flies to El Salvador to plead with the Salvadoran government to give him this alleged wife-beating, obviously illegal alien, probable member of MS-13. Please, you have to give him to us. He thinks this is going to win him votes. He thinks this is a winner for the Democrats. Well, not only does CNBC say otherwise, we have a CNN poll that is so beautiful and surprising in the scope of public opinion shifting here, surprising even me. And I've recognized that immigration is a loser issue for Democrats for about 10 years now. Before we get to that shock poll, I want to tell you, speaking of policies, about Policy Genius. Go to policygenius.com/Knowles. You have worked hard for things in your life. I think about the things in my life I worked hard for. My house, that's an asset that really matters. My podcast, obviously. My book. I actually did not work hard for one of my books because it didn't have any words in it. But nevertheless, it's still a valuable asset. Your dreams matter, and so does protecting them. Secure your family's future with Policy Genius Life Insurance. They make finding coverage simple, giving your loved ones a financial safety net to handle debts, expenses, even build wealth over time. Their side-by-side comparison tool shows you quotes from top insurers across America, completely free with no hidden fees. Our licensed experts are with you every step of the way, answering questions, handling paperwork, advocating for you so you can get the coverage you need and get back to living your life. 40% of people wish they'd gotten life insurance earlier. Get ahead today. Give you and your loved ones peace of mind knowing they will be financially protected if something happens to you, covering their everyday expenses, mortgage payments, or even college tuition if you are no longer there to provide. Just listen to the thousands of satisfied customers. They've left 5-star reviews on Google and Trustpilot. No matter what stage of life you're in, Policy Genius helps you find the perfect coverage for your situation. With Policy Genius, you can find life insurance policies that start at just $292 per year for $1 million worth of coverage. It's a responsible thing to do for your family. Some options are 100% online. They avoid unnecessary medical exams. Secure your families tomorrow so you have peace of mind today. Go to policygenius.com/Knowles or click the link in the description to get your free life insurance quotes. See how much you could save. policygenius.com/Knowles. CNN just ran a poll. Not DailyWire, not Fox News, not The Blaze. CNN runs a poll. What do Americans want to do about not about future illegal immigration, but about the illegal aliens who are in the country right now? CNN asked the most radical question you can ask on here. Not should we deport the MS-13 gangsters like Trump is doing. Not should we deport the criminals. How many of you, CNN asks, want to deport all illegal aliens in America? Now, this should be a minor. There are many Republicans even who say, well, not all. I mean, all of them except the local shop owner that I like. All of them except my cleaner. All of them except for the parent of my kid's classmate in school. All of that. You would think, at least listening to the media, listening to political discourse in the last 10 years, that position, how many want to deport all illegal aliens, 11 to 16 million people, would be a relatively small number, right? Actually, it turns out it's most Americans want that.
Deport all undocumented immigrants. Voters favoring the government trying to deport all 11 million of them. Back in 2016, just 38% of voters wanted the government to try to deport all 11 million undocumented immigrants. Compared to where we are in 2025, 56%, the majority. The American people have come a long way on this issue, much closer to Donald Trump, and I think that's a big part of the reason why Americans are increasingly saying the country is on the right track when it comes to immigration policy, and why Donald Trump's net approval rating on that issue is in the positive.
He made one error here. I'm so delighted by this poll that I don't want to knock him, but he made one error. He said, now the American people are much closer to Donald Trump on immigration. That's not true. The American people are much further to the right than where Donald Trump is. President Trump, an amazing president. I'm in no way counter-signaling him. What he's done is great. His position is the winning position, and he's doing a great job deporting people. But President Trump's view is, all right, first we're going to focus on the face-tattooed gangsters. First, we're going to focus on MS-13. First, we're going to focus. Listen, we want more legal immigration, but we obviously want to stop the illegal immigration. We want to close the border. The American people? 56% of Americans want to deport all illegal aliens. And then in multiple other polls from Gallup, from Harvard Harris, they show that they want to drastically reduce all immigration. They don't want to increase legal and decrease illegal. They want to decrease drastically all of it. CNN is trying to, I don't know, try to comfort themselves or something by saying, look, the American people are now getting closer to Trump. No. Most Americans are further to the right on immigration than where Trump is. You saw that first number there. Back in 2016, 38% wanted to deport all the 38% wanted to deport all the in 2016. And Trump won that election too. Trump was able to win. Trump comes down the escalator, says that illegal aliens are and some might be good people. And at a time when only 38% wanted to deport all of them, Trump won that election. Now you've got, what was the number, 56%? Just a complete blowout for the Democrats on an issue that they've dug their heels in on, where they have opened up the border, where everyone knows they opened up the border, where the fact that Trump was able to stop the illegal crossings without a new law after Joe Biden and Kamala and the Democrats told them for years they couldn't do anything, their hands were tied, they needed a new law. The Democrats just look terrible on this. And this is a sticky issue and it's not going away. Some Democrats know this. The executives at CNN and MSNBC know this because yesterday, or rather 2 days ago, when Rachel Morin was speaking at that press conference. I'm sorry, Rachel Morin's mother, Patty Morin, was speaking at the White House, giving that press conference on her daughter's murder, on what illegal immigration really looks like in America, how it affects so many people, the gory reality of it. You had the right-wing news networks were covering it. CNN, MSNBC refused to cover it. Now, no matter what you think about this, no matter what you think about illegal immigration, surely that news conference was newsworthy. This is all anybody was talking about while it was going on. CNN, MSNBC refused to talk about it because the executives understood this is a complete losing issue for Democrats, and the audience for CNN and MSNBC is Democrats. The executives know that. The politicians don't know that. The politicians keep digging in. They keep thinking that they're going to win on this issue. So they're going to focus on Kilmar Abrego Garcia. They call him a Maryland father. He's not of Maryland. He's an illegal alien. He's a Salvadoran father. And they say he's a father as if that means that he can't be an MS-13. You know, gangsters have kids too. Maybe this is news to Democrat politicians. Gangsters can have kids too. Criminals, drug dealers, human traffickers can have kids too. The best the elites of the Democrat Party can do right now is just try to ignore the issue. Kind of like Josh Shapiro is doing with the Israel-Palestine issue. He's just trying to ignore it, hope it goes away. But the active politicians and the pundits and the people who are really in the fight, they're all talking about it. They can't resist. They have to take the bait. And so they dig in on issues that are so deeply unpopular. Speaking of the Israel-Palestine issue, President Trump is now threatening $9 billion worth of grants to Harvard. We talked yesterday on the show about how Trump has already frozen over $2 billion worth of grants to Harvard from the federal government. We talked about how Trump's IRS is now threatening Harvard's tax-exempt status because Harvard is violating Title VI of the Civil Rights Act, because Harvard refused to stop the harassment of Jewish students when the Intifada took over the campus. Now, the Trump administration is threatening additional grants, $9 billion worth of grants. Democrats, elite Democrats like Barack Obama, he cheered on the fact that Harvard University is fighting back against the Trump admin. Democrats, elite Democrats and Harvard's administration are risking the end of America's oldest college. Over what? Over what? What are they risking this over? The Trump administration is saying that Harvard has failed to enforce civil rights law, Title VI. Civil rights law, which the Democrats love. They're supposed to love that. The liberals are supposed to love the new civil rights regime, the kind of parallel constitution that took over our country in the 60s. They're the ones who really wanted it, right? So is it that they're upset about civil rights law? They're happy to enforce civil rights law when it protects homosexuals, supposedly protects homosexuals, transvestites, supposed right to go into the women's bathroom, when it protects Muslim students against supposed Islamophobia. But now they don't like civil rights law when it protects the Jews against the campus intifada. What is it? They're willing. Many of them are Jews, by the way. Many of these Democrats and Harvard administrators are Jews themselves. So it's not just that you can say, well, it's a Jew versus non-Jew kind of thing. Many of them are Jews themselves. But they're willing to risk the oldest university, supposedly the most prestigious, over the supposed right of students to harass Jews because of the war in Gaza. That would be a weird way for Harvard to go down. I mean, you know my position on Harvard, which I've repeated for many years now, comes down to two words. Pardon the vulgarity, but Harvard sucks. That's my position. I've been looking forward to, and even beyond little college rivalries, conservatives have been saying for years that the beating heart of liberalism are the elite universities. And so we need to take down those elite universities. Harvard's got over $50 billion in its endowment. Okay. But for what? I mean, this is the crazy thing to me. I don't even care that much about the Israel-Palestine conflict. I know these days, the only position you're not allowed to hold is that you don't care that much about it or that it's not your top issue or anything. But I don't really. I know there's some people on the left and the right who you would think that they're on the payroll of the Intifada or the Israeli government. But I don't know. For me, it's not my top issue. I take much more of a practical, prudential approach to it as an American conservative. But it is crazy that issue, these guys are willing to torch their own university for the supposed sacred right to harass Jewish students so that you get the Greta Thunberg types wearing their stupid keffiyehs running around campus, chanting death to Israel from the river to the sea, whatever. That's amazing. Hey, whatever takes down Harvard, all right, fine by me. Big money we're talking about here, folks. $9 billion worth of grants on top of the potential loss of tax exemption, which would fundamentally change the way that Harvard operates. Now, speaking of big money, Bernie Sanders is spending big money to fight oligarchy, supposedly. Before we get to that, I want to tell you about Fast Growing Trees. Go to fastgrowingtrees.com, use promo code Knowles. Did you know that Fast Growing Trees is the biggest online nursery in the U.S. with thousands of different plants, over 2 million happy customers? They have all the plants that your yard needs: fruit trees, privacy trees, flowering trees, shrubs, so much more. Whatever plants you're interested in, Fast Growing Trees has you covered. Find your perfect fit for your climate and space. Plus, Fast Growing Trees makes it easy to get your dream yard. Order online, get your plants delivered directly to your door in just a few days without ever leaving home. Their Alive and Thrive guarantee ensures your plants arrive happy and healthy. Get support from trained plant experts on call to help you plan your landscape. Choose the right plants and learn how to care for them. Whether you're seeking privacy, shade, natural beauty for your yard, Fast Growing Trees has you covered. Their in-house experts are ready to help you make the perfect selection. No green thumb required from me. I don't know anything about growing anything, but Fast Growing Trees makes the service so easy that even I had a deep freeze on a couple of my shrubs in my house years ago. Already, the backyard looking much better. This spring, they got the best deals for your yard, up to half off select plants and other deals. Listeners to our show get 15% off their first purchase using code Knowles. That's an additional 15% off. FastGrowingTrees.com. Code Knowles. Now is the perfect time to plant. Code Knowles. Offer is valid for a limited time. Terms and conditions may apply. Bernie Sanders has teamed up with AOC, our putative next Democrat nominee for president, on a Fight the Oligarchs tour. Take a guess at how much money Bernie has spent on private jets around his Fighting the Oligarchs tour. Private jets are expensive. You could charter one for what? You figure $25,000 a leg. Well, Bernie, according to campaign expenditures, tipped to the Washington Free Beacon, has spent $221,000 on private jets around his Fighting the Oligarchs tour. I feel like I do pretty well. You know, I've sold a lot of books and cigars and stuff. A lot of people listen to my podcast, but I don't zip around on private jets. That's not a habit of mine. Bernie Sanders, though, the great working class hero, the socialist fighting the oligarchs, he zips around on private jets. I don't know if AOC joined him on those. That's just PJs during the first quarter of 2025. And I'm not even knocking him for it. It's obviously extremely hypocritical to be zipping around on PJs. One, while you are talking about, hazards to the environment. That's an unrelated matter. And two, certainly when you're on the Fighting the Oligarchs tour, Bernie seems like kind of an oligarch, doesn't he? Well, I guess my criticism of it is this. We will have elites. We will necessarily have elites. All societies have elites. I don't have a problem with there being elites. It's just a fact of human society and politics. I'm no leveling egalitarian who's going to pretend that we're going to have, a triumph of the proletariat and something. I don't know. That way lies madness. There will be elites. The question is, are we going to have oligarchs or are we going to have aristocrats among our elite? What's the difference? Very simple difference. Comes back to Polybius, ancient political writer, who saw that, aristocracy and oligarchy, it's a smaller group of people who are elite, but aristocrats govern for the common good. That's where aristo comes from, good. The oligarchs govern for private interest. That's the difference. Like the difference between a monarch and a tyrant. A monarch governs for the common good. Tyrant governs for his personal private interest. Kind of looks the same from the outside, but that's the difference. So the question for us is, are we going to have aristocrats or oligarchs? This is why the liberals don't understand how Trump could win on a populist tide. How Trump campaigning with Elon, the richest man in the world. You got two billionaires so public, how they could win this election on a populist tide. Because it's not that the people oppose having elites. It's not that the people oppose those who have been successful. They just want our successful people to use their resources for the common good. They don't want them to be greedy, corrupt, selfish jerks like you see on the left. That's the difference. I don't want to go eat the rich. They don't seem very tasty to me. Not one Trump voter begrudges him his wealth. Trump's been rich his whole life. He's come back from bankruptcies too, but that man has been rich since he was a kid. Elon Musk comes from means, and he's now the richest man in the world. The reason we like these guys and we knock people like Bernie Sanders and hypocrites like the wealthy people on the left is they talk about the common good all day. They don't really advance the common good. Trump has sacrificed tremendously these past 10 years for the common good. People believe that. People believe that about Elon Musk too. The libs, they don't get it. They think it's class warfare or something. No, it's much more sophisticated than that. The average conservative voter, I guess you'd say now because we won the popular vote, the average voter is much smarter than the liberal elites think, is much more sophisticated than the liberal elites think, is much less resentful, much less selfish than the liberal elites think, and that the liberal elites are themselves. The problem is not that some people are going to do better than others, some people are going to wield power, some people are going to run institutions, and that's not the problem. What are you doing with that power? We want that power to be used for the common good, not for the selfish interest of a corrupt group of oligarchs. Bernie wants to go fight the oligarchs. Take a look in the mirror and go look at your donors. Now, speaking of taking on oligarchy, Bobby Kennedy, the Secretary of Health and Human Services, is taking on the relationship between autism and vaccines.
The epidemic is real. Only a very, very small portion of it can be changed can be charged to better recognition or better diagnostic criteria. I want to say a couple of other things. There are many, many other studies that affirm this. And instead of listening to this canard of epidemic denial, all you have to do is start reading a little science, because the answer is very clear. And this is catastrophic for our country. There's a recent study by Blaxell et al. And a team of other researchers that said that the cost of treating autism in this country by 2035, so within 10 years, will be $1 trillion a year. This is added to already astronomical healthcare costs. And then there's an individual injury. These are kids this is a preventable disease. We know it's an environmental exposure. It has to be. Genes do not cause epidemics.
Okay, so you hear him going on. Now notice he didn't use the word vaccine there. But I think it's implied that he's going to look into the vaccines too. Been a big question about Bobby Kennedy's political career. He's been campaigning on the link between vaccines and autism for his whole career. And then he gets into power, and there's some question, is he going to take it on? Is he going to? I got the distinct impression that he would take it on. There are very entrenched interests that don't want those questions to be raised. When I was chatting with him over at the White House a couple of weeks ago, he was giving perfectly fine answers to all my questions, but he really came alive when I asked about this question of vaccine safety and its implications for autism. He's clearly going to pursue that. I think this is the main thing he cares about, and I think he should care about it. As he says, the one thing we can't deny is the epidemic. It is weird that in the 1960s, 1 in 2,500 kids was diagnosed with autism. Today, by 2000, I think it was 1 in 150 or something like that. Today, it's 1 in 36. 1 in 36. So what is it? Some people say, well, we're just diagnosing it more frequently. Kennedy says there, if you dig into the literature, that just doesn't explain it. So something's causing it, right? Could be something in the air, could be something in the water. As Kennedy says here, it's not going to be something in your genes. Genes don't cause epidemics. It's something environmental. But if you're so convinced, Big Pharma is so convinced, look, it's possible. I don't know anything about vaccines. What do I know about vaccines? You don't know anything about vaccines either, by the way. Who knows if Bobby Kennedy knows anything? But what's the harm in asking? What's the harm in looking into it? Do we deny that autism rates have increased dramatically? No. Do we agree that autism is not a desirable condition? It's a problem that people have to deal with? Yeah. Okay, you're so confident the vaccines have nothing to do with it? Great. Let Kennedy investigate. What are these oligarchs so afraid of? Now, speaking of the Trump administration, a lot of people are wondering about the future. What happens to MAGA after Trump? I was talking about this a couple days ago, 2-3 days ago on the show, because Vivek Ramaswamy is doing great in Ohio for the Ohio governor's race. He's at 71% polling. Also, J.D. Vance is looking like the heir apparent at the presidential level. And yet those two guys seem to disagree a little bit on the direction of MAGA. On one side, you have the pro-free trade, deregulate, meritocracy kind of angle. On the other side, you have the pro-tariff, defend America's heritage, protectionist kind of angle. Well, what's the future of MAGA? You got Peter Navarro on one side, you got Steve Bannon on the other. Well, Steve Bannon, speaking of, says that we don't need to worry about the future of MAGA without Trump anytime soon, because Trump is going to run for and win a third term.
Look, President Trump didn't bring up running for a third term. Myself and others brought up running for a third term. President Trump is going to run for a third term, and President Trump is going to be elected again on the afternoon of January 20th of 2029. He's going to be president of the United States.
Okay, but the thing I just read in there, it seemed like there was no wriggle room there. It seemed like it was just, 8 or 10 words that said only 2 times.
We have a team of people that are
working.
A team.
How can a team do something about that? What? I don't care if the team is 12 trillion people. The words are still the words.
Bill, every day in federal courts, right now in federal courts, there's 120 lawsuits on what President Trump's doing for his Article 2 rights on the unified executive theory. But he's chief executive, he's commander in chief, and he's chief magistrate and chief law enforcement officer. There's 100, and they're running to court every day to sue President Trump, all because the interpretation of this. The interpretation of this is open for interpretation.
Okay, so there you have it. Bannon doesn't totally bring the goods on how Trump is going to stay for a third term, but he says there's a way to do it. And you hear the skepticism from Bill Maher. What is this really about? Well, you hear Steve Bannon says at the beginning, it's not Trump suggesting this, it's me suggesting this on his behalf. I suspect what a lot of this is about. Who knows? Look, Ronald Reagan campaigned against the 22nd Amendment, against presidential term limits. The most prominent modern Democrat president, FDR, this was obviously before the 22nd Amendment, but he didn't care. He blew up the Washington precedent. He won 4 elections. So Democrats don't really have any right to complain about this, and Republicans too. I mean, the great principled Republican, Ronald Reagan, thought presidential term limits were terrible. But what is this really about? I think a lot of this is about President Trump figuring out how to work through a political problem that is novel in all of our lifetimes. That's novel even going back to our grandparents' lifetime, that we haven't seen since Cleveland having a non-consecutive second term back in the 19th century. Namely, What do? You've got a new administration, but you're at risk of being a lame duck. And I think the rapidity, I think the absolute fire hose of initiatives from the Trump administration, I think the volatility in global markets and geopolitics broadly, 2 major wars going on right now. I think Trump's initiatives on all of those fronts, and including dangling the little shiny object over here, those shiny keys over here to say there might be a third term. I think that's all about off-footing his opponents and making it clear that he is still quite active. He still has a lot of power. He's to use Scott Adams' term, I think he's talking about the sale here. But we'll see. Who knows? Maybe we get a third term. Then Barron can serve 7 or 8 terms. Barron, Augustus, Octavian, Caesar, Trump. And, who knows? We'll go from there. America's on the comeback, but the fight for truth is far from over while the libs try desperately to keep their grip on media, education, and the courts. DailyWire is leading the charge for free speech, fearless journalism, and the values that made our country great. Now is the time to join us. Stream my show ad-free. Get exclusive content you won't find anywhere else. Watch anytime, anywhere on desktop, mobile, and TV with the DailyWire Plus app. Don't just watch the culture war happen around you. Be part of the movement. Subscribe now at dailywire.com/subscribe. My favorite comment yesterday is from Sky325Real, who says, calling Kilmar Abrego Garcia a Maryland father is like calling Charles Manson a famous musician. He was famous with his girls and a musician. This is how the media operate. Yeah, fair enough. A Maryland father. He was a Maryland father. What does that mean? I was in Iceland once. It's not an Icelandic citizen, of course. I'm not some blonde, blue-eyed, white as snow, Nordic, Thor-looking fellow. But could I call myself an Icelandic man, an Icelandic cigar salesman? No, I don't think so. Mr. Garcia's relationship to Maryland and to our country is rather tenuous, and he's not here anymore, and he's not coming back. The Mailbag this week is sponsored by Pure Talk, as it is just about every week. Go to puretalk.com/Knowles, get a year of DailyWire Plus for free with a qualifying plan. Take it away.
Michael, I discovered you when you guest hosted for Rush in 2020. I've not missed an episode of your show since March 2022. I subscribed to Daily Wire a month later just for your show. I've been a member of the Creme de la Creme since before it technically existed, but you had a take this week that was so bad it made me consider never listening to your show again. Daylight savings time. First, you got the setup wrong. Trump doesn't want to get rid of daylight savings time. He wants to get rid of standard time. He originally said he wanted to get rid of daylight savings time, but now he says he wants to permanently extend daylight in the evening, which would mean abolishing standard time. This is the move that has bipartisan support. You also have the history of daylight savings time completely wrong. It had nothing to do with farmers. Farmers actually hated daylight savings time when it was instituted because farmers perform much work in the morning and they actually lose an hour of daylight relative to the clock. And I say this as somebody from the rural South who grew up on a small farm. Daylight savings time was originally instituted by Wilson during World War I, reinstituted by FDR during World War II, and codified during the LBJ administration in the 60s. 3 of the worst lib presidents in American history. I think about a line from Rush. You don't always have to know what something is. You just have to know who wants it. The libs wanted this. It is a liberal assault on the reality of time. And as far as tradition, it's about 5 minutes old, just a little younger than communism and feminism. And like both of those things, it needs to be eradicated from public life entirely. Please do some research, reevaluate your stance, and completely change your opinion on this issue. Thanks. Love the show.
That is one of the greatest mailbag dressing downs I've ever had. That was very, very well stated, and I think it's the best argument for ending daylight savings time. Now, you say Trump doesn't want to end daylight savings time. He wants to end standard time, thereby making daylight savings time the standard time. This is the same thing. But fair enough. It'll be permanent daylight savings time. We could call it daylight standard time or something like that. Okay, fine. You say that farmers never really liked it. Now, listen, I did not claim that farmers loved daylight savings time in the beginning. I said it is claimed that, but you are right. That is a canard. Farmers were not the ones campaigning for daylight savings time. They actually were opposed to it from the beginning and onward. You're right that Woodrow Wilson was involved in it, though there have been many projects to grab hold of time throughout history, before Woodrow Wilson, before the founding of America. And so this really gets down to what we're talking about here. To measure time is to create some kind of artificial construct. We're trying to grab hold of something that we can't really control. And we're trying to measure something that we actually can't even really measure. Even an atomic clock can't really perfectly get it right. So the point that I'm emphasizing here is we have a little power here. We within the polity, the conservative argument for this is that we within the polity have the power to establish our measurements and to do so in ways that benefit us. We are not slaves to the clock. And so the arguments for daylight savings time are that we get a little extra time, in the summertime and in the evening, a little extra daylight, could play outside more, have a little more retail, juices the economy. We don't really need that time in the winter. I don't mind springing forward and falling back. They say that it kills people, some small number of people. Yeah, okay, but it also saves lives. So give me a break. To me, that's weak. I agree that FDR and Woodrow Wilson are bad. But I also insist upon the political right, the exalted freedom to grab hold of our clocks. And so, look, it takes a very confident and very handsome man to admit when he hears a good argument from the other side. You've moved me a little bit. You haven't totally convinced me, though. I still like my silly little clock changes. The tradition's only 100 years old. It's all right. I'll deal with it. Next one.
Good morning, Michael. This is Arun. So like you, I love President Donald Trump. No homo. But I do believe he is making a huge mistake with his refusal to enforce the TikTok ban. First of all, I think it is unwise because TikTok is evil. But secondly, the TikTok ban was a bill that was legitimately passed by both houses of Congress and signed into law by by Joe Biden, such as he was. And so it seems to me that the president has a duty to enforce laws, even laws that he doesn't like. Now, I grant you that every president should be given some leeway and discretion to exercise their better judgment. But it seems to me that here there are no serious downsides to banning TikTok. I'm curious as to what you think President Trump should do. Thank you as always for your insight.
Wonderful question. The reason that Trump has not enforced the TikTok ban, I think, is one, it would have been politically unpopular, and we've just come off this election season because a lot of people, young people, many of whom came over to Trump, really like TikTok. But two, because the enemy of my enemy can at least act as my friend. The people who really wanted TikTok to be banned were Silicon Valley. Facebook and Google really wanted TikTok to be banned because TikTok is a competitor to Facebook and Google. But Facebook and Google have been very, very anti-conservative, anti-Republican, anti-Trump. So why would Trump give a freebie to people who have hated him and tried to destroy his life for the past 10 years? I think Silicon Valley needs to make more concessions. I think there is a negotiation going on here, a little art of the deal. And I think if Facebook and Google, the chief beneficiaries of a TikTok ban, want that to be effected, the president conducts foreign policy, he's got a lot of leeway, as you admit, then I think Facebook and Google need to give us something. It's not enough. I don't care that Sundar Pichai and Mark Zuckerberg showed up to the inauguration. That's a good start. Those guys have spent a lot of time pummeling conservatives into the ground these past 10 years, deliberately, and I want concessions from them. And then I agree with you. I don't have any soft spot for the Chinese Communist Party or for TikTok or brain rot or anything, but I think Trump needs to extract concessions before he carries that out. Next one.
Hi, Michael. I was listening to your episode last Friday about how apparently, according to Democrats, married women can't vote because of the SAVE Act. So I just wanted to state for the record that I got married in May of 2024, but by the November election to bring President Trump back into the White House, I was able to cast my vote using my new ID with my new last name. But this really got me thinking. I know many married women who just don't really feel like it's necessary to go through the legal process to change their last name. And I know it sucks going up to the DMV and the Social Security office with your second grade report card and the Constitution of Rwanda and even pay a little bit of money. But is this just laziness among women? Do they just not see it as a priority? Is it a win of feminism? Would love to get your thoughts. And I just followed Mayflower Cigars on Instagram. So thanks for all you do and just excited to hear from you.
Yeah, it's really good. People just like to complain, That's all it is, really. People just like to complain. And so they're trying to find anything. They're complaining about Trump deporting a guy who 2 judges found is likely an MS-13 gangster who, had a court order of protection filed by his wife because he was beating her allegedly. So anyway, they like to find anything they can to hit Trump. And on this, not just the hoi polloi, but the elite Democrats who are leading the opposition to the SAVE Act, they're just upset because they don't want people to have to prove that they're citizens to vote. So it actually does relate to the illegal immigrant question. They don't like that the SAVE Act requires you to prove that you are eligible to vote in order to vote. And so they can't say that outright. They always have to say, this is somehow discriminatory against black people, or this is discriminatory against whatever, pygmies, or this is discriminatory, and now they're saying it's discriminatory against women, married women in particular, as if Republicans wanted to disfranchise. Even if we wanted to disenfranchise anyone, it wouldn't be married women because married women vote Republican. So it's just so stupid. It's so transparent what they're after. They want illegal aliens to vote. And when they say illegal aliens don't vote, the conservatives respond and say, okay, great. Well, we're just going to make sure that you have to prove you're a citizen to vote. And they say, no, you can't do that. And you say, why not? They say, because married women won't vote or something. It's just so ridiculous. You're right. Yeah, sometimes it's inconvenient to get ID cards. We all do it. You do it to get into bars and to buy a pack of cigarettes. It's not that hard. Today is Fake Headline Friday. It is Good Friday, and it's also Fake Headline Friday. The rest of the show continues now. You don't want to miss it. Become a member. Use code Knowles, KNWLAS, at checkout for 2 months free on all annual plans.